Welcome to the last kruk and kuip extra innings of 2017 as the Niners beat the Rams 34-13. Of course, you can follow on social media on Facebook and Twitter. Let's start off with the Giants offseason news and moves around baseball. The Reds have announced they are signing Jared Hughes to a two-year minor league contract with a club option for 2020. Oh, it'll be a major league contract, excuse me, for 2018-2019 for $4.5 million. Diamondbacks re-signed Jake Buchanan to a minor league contract. Reds signed Daniel Wright to a minor league contract. And then Miguel Sano accused of assault for the Twins, and Sano Twins third baseman Miguel Sano has been accused of assaulting Betsy Bisson. It'll get interesting to see what happens with that if the MLB decides to place him on paid leave until the MLB investigates this as we get towards spring training. And it's just been a real quiet week as in terms of MLB this week, as it's been and the other real big signing this week is the Rockies sign Wade Davis to a 3-year, $52 million contract, which means Greg Holland, who's wanting more money to go elsewhere, could end up in Chicago or elsewhere. We'll see what happens with that. And as the corresponding move, the Rockies designate Shane Carl for assignment to make room for Wade Davis. But we'll see how Wade Davis's stuff translates to hitter-friendly Coors Field next year as they look for that shutdown closer. Twins signed Zach Duke to a $2 million one-year contract. And he's 34 off of a limited campaign, and he's coming off of Tommy John surgery, so we'll see how he does this year. Yankees re-signed CC Sabathia to a one-year, $10 million contract. So he's going to probably be the back end of the rotation that features Severino, Tanaka, Gray, and Montgomery. And, of course, they could still make a run after possibly Lance Lynn. And then Tyson Ross makes a minor league deal to return to the San Diego Padres. Hopefully to reinvent himself back in San Diego this next year, as he will probably compete for a roster spot in spring training. And speaking of reuniting with old players. Chris Young is reunited with the Padres too, who will probably start it in the minors too. So we'll see how he does back as he returns to San Diego to try and reinvent his career. And still, a lot of the top free agents have not been signed as we head into 2018. We will see if that changes after we go into the new year and spring training comes around. Brewers are interested in Alex Cobb. That could get interesting. But it could be a theme that a lot of these free agents are going to have to start lowering their prices at this rate as a lot of teams continue to shy away from those big contracts. It looks like a lot of these big paydays are not going to materialize for a lot of these free agents. All right, now let's go with the NFL for today as we now on to today's Niners game as the Niners finished the season 6-10 after starting 0-9. That is a really, really excellent comeback by the Niners. Even when they were not winning, they still played hard for Kyle Shanahan. You got to give Kyle Shanahan a lot of credit for what he did this year with what little talent he had. Great job, and now it's going to be on to the end. Despite the fact Jimmy Garoppolo didn't have his greatest game today, he was 20 for 33, 292 yards. The 2 interceptions weren't great, but Sean Mannion looked decent. Then we started, of course, with the Robbie Gould field goal in the first quarter. Then after that, Marquise Goodwin received a pass from Jimmy Garoppolo before leaving the game later that day. Then there was a dirty hit that came later in that game between in which unfortunately Marquise Goodwin left with a concussion. And that's certainly going to be something the NFL league office is going to review for a possible suspension or fine. I certainly think it's going to be a suspension and not a fine. The way the NFL's been cracking down on targeting hits, and this was something that I think would have been worthy of an ejection. And certainly this is something the NFL competition committee has to really take a hard look at this offseason and fix that up to But yeah, Blake Countess, that's the guy, Blake Countess. I certainly think he's going to get a suspension for his hit on Goodwin. There's going to be no way around a suspension from this. It'll at least be he'll at least lose the game check for the playoff, but that is something that the NFL competition committee has to really take a hard look at, eliminating those type of hits next year and making video replay available to review these hits for disqualification. And then later on in the first quarter, Sam Ficken kicks a 23-yard field goal to make it 10-3. Then in the second quarter, Robbie Gould kicks another 48-yarder field goal. Then Carlos Hyde runs one in after that to make it 20-3. Then Sam Ficken makes it 20-6 going into halftime. Third quarter, Carlos Hyde runs another ball in for a touchdown to make it 27. And then Andre Robinson receives one from Jimmy Garoppolo in the fourth quarter to make it 34-10, 34-6. And then in garbage time in the fourth quarter, Lance Dunbar runs one in to get your final score of 34-13, as now the 49ers will go into the offseason 6-10. Now the real questions are going to be what's going to happen during the free agency. And I'm going to send a link here if you're watching live to chime in video chat. I certainly would like to have your opinions. Yeah, but I'm certainly looking forward to this offseason for the 49ers. They have about $100 million in cap space. And there's certainly some players you got to target in free agency. Get some offensive line, a wide receiver, maybe Calvin Ridley in the first round if he falls to the Niners. Now they're going to be probably like the bottom 10 of the draft. Or another option might be, and I think this would be a good fit, would be Quentin Nelson as to help bulk up the offensive line, or a corner. Certainly with the $100 million in cap space, your first priority this offseason is certainly going to be to re-sign Jimmy Garoppolo long term, as he's done great. And in the worst case, you franchise tag him for 1 year and give him another opportunity next year. But I think, a perfect weapon for Jimmy Garoppolo this offseason is going to be, in my opinion, would be Sammy Watkins, since he was part of the Patriots system. And I think he would certainly thrive in a Shanahan system. So you could see a lot of receivers and backs next year that can operate the West Coast offense to help make the Niners a legitimate playoff contender next year as we enter this offseason. So we will see how that works out. And I'm really excited about the Niners-Rams rivalry. This will be like the late 80s, early 90s when the San Francisco-LA rivalry was the real deal in the NFL. And then you got Seattle, a team that's certainly trending down. That's going to be going into a retool situation. You got the Arizona Cardinals, who's likely facing a coaching vacancy with Bruce Arians retiring. So you're going to have a need for coaching help there. But now let's wrap around the NFL for this last week of the 2017 NFL season as we go into the new year. As the Falcons beat the Carolina Panthers 22-10, as Atlanta has now clinched the 6th seed, and Atlanta will play in the first round of the NFL playoffs next week. Atlanta will play the LA Rams. I think this will be a Saturday game. And Carolina will now head to will play the New Orleans. Will go to the Superdome to play the Saints again next week. The Cincinnati beats Baltimore 31-27, and the Ravens were eliminated from playoff contention after that. And now that could put John Harbaugh on the hot seat next year. The Bills beat the Dolphins 22-16. And for the first time since 1999, the Buffalo Bills are actually going to be in the postseason this year as a 6th seed, and they will play the Jacksonville Jaguars in the first round of the playoffs. So congrats to the Bills. The Buccaneers beat the Saints 31-24. New Orleans will host the Carolina Panthers next week in the first round of the NFL in the wild card round. The Titans beat the Jaguars 15-10, and the Titans today clinch a playoff berth as a 5 seed, and they will play Kansas City in the first round of the NFL playoffs. Kansas City beats Denver 27-24, and I think after that game, Vance Joseph was fired. Yeah, Vance Joseph hasn't officially been fired, but all signs are pointing for Vance Joseph to likely be fired either today or tomorrow in Denver. LA Chargers beat Oakland 30-10, and after the game, Jack Del Rio was fired by the Raiders. And Reggie McKenzie could be out the door too, as Mark Davis is going to make a hard pursuit after John Gruden tried to bring him back as possibly a GM head coach, which I think might be a mistake. I don't think Gruden's going to be that savior that the Raiders are thinking. I don't know if Derek Carr can thrive in his system or not, but it could be false hope for the Raiders as they go into a coaching vacancy. But I think certainly an offensive-minded coach could be the right hire this time around to maybe look for that Sean McVay if they can't hire Gruden to get Derek Carr back to being Derek Carr next year. Arizona beat Seattle 26-24 as the Sea Chickens are robbinated from playoff contention. And this is likely Bruce Arians' final game, as he will be retiring due to health issues. And I wish Bruce Arians a happy retirement. Detroit beats Green Bay 35-11. And another possible firing, as rumors are swirling that Jim Caldwell might be fired tomorrow. Chuck Pagano leaves the Colts a winner as they beat Houston 22-13. As Chuck Pagano is out in Indianapolis, and in Houston, Rick Smith is likely stepping down as general manager, so Bill O'Brien is safe there. The Minnesota beats Chicago 23-10, and John Fox likely out in Chicago. And for Minnesota, they got to make a question at quarterback next year. I certainly think Sam Bradford could be one where I think he'd be a good fit for Oakland next year to compete against Derek Carr, as they definitely need to upgrade the backup position in Oakland next year. New England beats New York 26-6. The New York Giants beat Washington 18-10. Dallas blanks Philadelphia 6-0. And Pittsburgh beats Cleveland 28-24 as the Browns finish this year 0-16. But for some weird reason, they are not going to fire Hugh Jackson after this game, and I think that's going to be a mistake there. But we shall see where the coaching hires end up in the next few days, and I totally wouldn't be surprised in Oakland if Reggie McKenzie's also fired there, as Mark Davis is probably going to look to clean house. But I got to get ready to go for New Year's Eve. Thank you guys. Please don't drink and drive. Be safe tonight. And everybody have a wonderful 2018. Good night.